Well, hello and welcome to Pink Paper Peppermints. My name is Melissa and I'm so glad you're here today. We are going to jump right in to this project. We're talking about hidden journaling today, and I wanted to show you this little pocket. It has a little roof that folds over so you can close it, but I'm using it as a pocket. I guess I should have said envelope. It's an envelope that I am using as a pocket. I made a little mountain there to sit the house on, and this is the typical kind of hidden journaling that you see. It's a tag with some journaling on the back, and then you tuck it into a pocket, but it's not really hidden because anybody could just pull the tag out and read the journaling. So if you've got journaling that is really private and you want it to be there, but you don't want anyone to read it except for yourself, then I am going to show you the secret to actual hidden journaling. So we're going to be working on this pink page here, but before we start with the layer stack, I want to jump ahead to the future when this layer stack is almost finished and ask you if you can spot the hidden journaling. And I bet that you think it's up at the top where that little tab is. We're going to pull that out, and no, my friend, that is what I call a decoy. And a decoy is the secret to actual hidden journaling. So you have some kind of interactive thing on your page that distracts from where your journaling really is hidden. So let's jump into it, and I'm going to show you what we're going to do. First, I want to show you, this is a piece of embossed paper that I have put foil on without any heat or any special tool. And I learned this from May Made It. I'm going to link her tutorial down below because I don't want to share her trick. I want you to go see her video. It is so cool and so much fun. This is the foil that I used, and they are sold out of it on the Sizzix website, but May has it in her shop, which I will link you below. And you will get a 10% off coupon if you use my link, and then I'll get like a little extra bonus rewards in my account. So it'll be fun for both of us. So go watch that tutorial and then go get yourself some foil because it is so much fun. This is another little thing that I did. It's a piece of the pattern paper, and I just went around and foiled the edges of the pattern, and I just think it came out so pretty. I'm so excited about this. I want to foil all the things. So go watch that tutorial after this video, of course, and then play with the foil with me. So, okay, so what we're going to do is I'm going to attach this to this page eventually, but this is going to be the top of my stack, and I'm going to wrap it around the page. I noticed that it covers up part of my calendar, so I'm just going to tear it off there. I think it will look kind of fun to have it wrap around torn like that. I like looks like that, and that's where my stack is going to start. So I'm just going to go and get my stack all ready, put lots of ephemera and bits and pieces. I typed the words to this song on some glassine, and I'm very sorry that you will have that song stuck in your head for the rest of the day now, because I have ever since I typed it. And now I've got it all sewn together. I was trying out a fancy new stitch on my new sewing machine, this little leaf stitch, which I thought was very pretty. And I've got it all ready, and now we're going to get into the real spot of the hidden journaling. So I've got this little scrap of paper that is actually from another Thanksgiving kit that I have, not this one, but another one. And it's just the bottom part I tore off. So I'm going to tuck that in as part of my layer stack, and that's what it's going to look like. But in actuality, it's going to be attached to this piece of vintage paper that I've embossed down the side, and I'm going to do my hidden journaling on this piece of paper. So I'm going to attach this with glue. I don't want to sew it because I don't want any extra bulk going into my pocket. Now on the back of this, I've got a lot of stitches and things, so in order for that to not catch on my pocket, I'm just going to cover that up with a piece of plain printer paper that I was practicing typing on. So I'm just going to glue that down and make a really smooth place for my pocket. So I've got that glued down now, and when I left the strings out, because I love those on the bottom, and this is my little journaling spot that I've glued the paper to, and it's going to slip right into that pocket, and you won't be able to tell, just like you couldn't tell before. We put our little decoy up at the top, and you won't be able to notice this journaling spot at all. It'll just look like it's part of the layer stack. So before we get to the next idea, I just wanted to show you my prompt page for this week. I just used the same sort of formula that I've been using with the embossed paper, and I cut out these roses from one of those tabbed cards and glued those on some ledger paper, and then I just typed "He will guide me" on that ledger paper, and that's the inside of my door. So our next idea, I think this one might be my favorite, but I don't know because the next one is really cool too. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just tearing some of the blueprint paper and I'm making this kind of a background for what we're going to do. And I'm using these coin envelopes, and I'll link those below. All of the products that I'm using today will be linked below if you're interested in any of them. And I've got my coin envelope all put together, and you can see I printed on the other side that green paper. It kind of looks like a rug. And we're going to be, normally I wouldn't print on the inside of an envelope, but we're going to be doing something fun with this. And this is my little tag. Now this is going to be our decoy for this project. So it's a little bit long, so I want to cut the tip off, which I've done here. And then I also don't like the white that's on the back, so I'm just going to take some of that embossed aged paper and glue that to the back of my tag, and then add a little bit of ribbon that's going to stick out of the sides. So I said that was our decoy, and I'm going to show you what our real hidden journaling is going to be here in just a minute. But first, what we want to do is we're going to attach this envelope with the flaps. So we're going to have the flaps open, and we're going to attach them with some seam binding ribbon, and it's going to kind of look like a belly band that's attached not to both pages, but just to this blueprint page that's on the top. So I've punched some holes in, and I'm just tracing the holes on the blueprint paper, and now I've added some eyelets to it, and I wanted it to be reinforced because we're going to be opening and closing that ribbon. And I'm not sure that I love it, but it doesn't really show for the most part. So I've got the envelope on top. Really what I should have done was reinforce the envelope, but we'll see. Maybe this will work out okay. So I'm adding this seam binding to my hole and into the bottom. I'm just going to tie that in a little pretty bow, and I'm going to do that on both sides. And you can see this is how it's going to look on the page. So it's going to look like what you do is pull out that tag, and I'll put some decoration on the back, and they won't know that if you open this inside this envelope flap, there's going to be something special. So I've got some of that embossed paper, and I'm just gluing it to make a tiny little pocket on the inside of my envelope. And I'm going to make a little mini book for my journaling, and I'm using one of those tabbed cards, the same one that I cut the roses out of. It had a misprint on the back, so I think that's okay since I'll have some pages in it. And I'm going to use this as my little book, and I realize it's not going to fit in there, so I have to cut that tab off. And then I realized later it's still not going to fit in there, and I'll show you what I'm going to do. I'm going to put a tag in the back instead and just kind of lay the book on top of that. So the way I'm going to do pages for this is accordion style, and I've printed this ledger paper from the kit double-sided, and I'm going to cut a strip of it out and just accordion fold it, which I've done here, and I've rounded the corners, which is really fun. I like the way that looks in a little mini book especially. And so now I'm just going to glue it in, but I see that my pages are pretty thick, so I'm just making kind of a little tiny spine on the book so that the pages will fit in there a little better. And I'm just basically doing 2 creases to create that spine, and now my pages fit, and it's like a little tiny mini traveler's notebook. And so I'm going to glue those pages to the back, which I've done here, and then I've used some embroidery floss, and I made a little tag by typing my title there on a piece of manila tag and then cutting it out in the shape of a little mini tag and sliding it on the embroidery floss. And this doesn't seem like Thanksgiving journaling, but that's why it's super private, because sometimes painful things happen during holidays, right? And you need to journal about them. So that's what I'm doing here, but it's going to be private to just me, and I don't want anyone else reading this. So I thought about, I would have liked to have typed my journaling, so I might even cut those pages out so that I can type on it and then put them back in. So now I'm just going to tuck this in behind the tag and close up my flaps and re-tie my bow, and no one will be the wiser. So if I'm flipping through this at Thanksgiving and showing people my book, no one's going to think to open that up and look inside that envelope, and I don't have to explain that journaling. So okay, number 3, I love this one. It's lots of fun. We're going to start with an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper. This one's got a little leaf cut out of it, but I think I can work around that. And we're going to fold it into thirds. So about a little more than 3 1/4 inches. I didn't measure, I just kind of folded it, and it's accordion fold, so you can see how it opens up here. just like an accordion, and we're going to turn that sideways, and this is going to become a pocket with some hidden journaling. So I'm just measuring. This is going to be different. The width of it is going to be different depending on what book you're using. So if you're using a smaller book, you're going to make it more narrow. I'm using a half booklet size, a half sheet booklet size. So I'm going to use that tag to be my decoy, and so I'm going to put a little backing on this. So you can see that I've got the paper folded in thirds. I'm adding my backing. I've cut it to size now, and it's just going to go in between the two top pieces of my 3 folds. Okay, so we didn't print on the back of this because you don't need to, so you can keep it white. And I'm sliding my tag in just to make sure that it fits, because what I'm going to do is glue it, but I'm also going to sew it. And I decide that I want to do a little window in the pocket part, so I'm going to cut it on my die cut machine. But you could also do this by just tracing the window shape that you want and using an X-Acto blade or a craft knife to cut that shape out. I just happen to have a little ATC size. So you want to make sure that you're only cutting that top part of your 3-fold, that top flap. You don't want to cut anything else because that's going to become part of our actual hidden journaling. This is just our distraction journaling. So, okay, I've cut my little shape out. Now it's a little bit off center. Wasn't too happy about that, but I'm going to go with it. So this is my window, and now I'm going to slide my backing paper in. I'm going to be gluing it to that back part when it's time, but I decide I want to put a clear window inside my window, if that makes sense. And so I'm going to make that out of some packaging. Before I do that, I want there to be like a little surprise when you pull that tag out. And I typed on one of the flashcards, the scripture from that particular flashcard. I typed it out, and I'm going to glue that to my backing paper so that when you pull that tag out, you get the little surprise of something hidden behind there. And that's going to become part of our distraction. So I used this embossing folder to emboss a piece of plastic packaging. This is going to be my window, and I'm going to glue that to, or sew that rather, to the back of my frame. And again, when you're sewing this on, you want to make sure you're not sewing anything else but just this window part. And you could also glue it. I like sewing, and also sewing is going to add to our decoy because it's going to look like this window is sewn down. So this is the tag that I'm going to use in the pocket. I've just sewn some vintage fabric to a piece of manila, or a manila tag I should say, and I'm going to decorate this later, but probably not in this video because I'm running out of time. But I'm sliding it in to make sure that it fits. And the neat thing about this is we've got a lot of distractions going on. We can see the vintage fabric through the window. When we open it, we get a little surprise, but our real hidden journaling is going to be underneath. So you're going to lift up and you're going to find some secret journaling, and we're going to disguise it too, and I'll show you more about that in a minute. So I tried to glue it, and that did not work at all because of the thickness of my tag with the fabric. It just wasn't working. It just popped right open. So I'm relying on my trusty tiny attacher to help me out with this. Now you want to make sure that you're not attaching that back piece that's going to be part of our hidden journaling. And I'm just going to staple it right down the sides 3 times. And the staples are so tiny, they kind of blend into the stitches, and plus I just think they're fun. They don't bother me at all. So I've added my tag in here just to make sure that I have enough room, and I'm keeping my thumb there to make sure I don't staple my tag into the pocket, and that is going to work much better than the glue. So now we're ready to work on our distraction for our hidden journaling. So I'm using this leftover strip of ledger paper from the little mini book that we made, and this is going to be what I'm going to write on or type on my journaling, and it's going to be tucked right in here in my pocket. And I start to do it vertically and then decide it would be a lot cuter if I did it horizontally, so I turn it sideways, and that's going to work a lot better. And now what we want to do is glue the back of our paper down flat. We're going to glue both pieces, the tall backing paper and the back of the pocket, down to our paper. And now we're going to do a little closure. This is going to be our last sort of decoy, and I've taken a key tag and put some glitter on it, and I'm going to use those charms I picked up at the craft store, and I'm just kind of sliding them in between the split rings and sliding those right on, and that makes our little charm. and I'm going to use a paper clip. It's a rectangular paper clip that, I'm sorry, I don't remember where I got this. It was just in my stash. And I'm going to add this on to the pocket, and this is just going to make it look like this is clipped down to the page. And I decided to add a little seam binding ribbon there and clip that down, and you can see how pretty that is. And that is our final decoy. You won't be able to tell at all that there's actually some hidden journaling beneath this pocket. So I added some seam binding ribbon to the top of my tag, and I'll be decorating the inside later, and you can see how pretty this looks. We've got our little surprise, our embossed window, and our pretty charm, and no one would ever suspect that we've got hidden journaling underneath. Well, we're wrapping up our 4-week Thanksgiving event, and that means it's almost Christmas. So I suggest next that you go and watch this video. You will love it. I'm showing you 10 paper Christmas trees in 12 minutes. Well, if you participated in my Heart of Thanksgiving this year, I hope you enjoyed it. I know that I did, and I can't wait for next year. In the meantime, I hope you have a Thanksgiving filled with peace and grace, and I'll see you next time here on Pink Paper Peppermints.